Hey, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Greg, we're talking about ghost kitchens, but this is not a scary story. What is happening with ghost kitchens?
Well, I was on a webinar this week with United Fresh, and among the topics were the ghost kitchen trend. And they had a stat that I liked because it made me feel like I wasn't so behind the curve. They said that 29% of consumers were familiar with ghost kitchens, and the remaining 71% had never heard of them before taking that survey. So when you were talking about Mr. Beast, I was a little out of my element. Not only did I not know this YouTube guy who caters to teenage boys, not girls, which I have, I wasn't
Everybody
even
can like
going
Mr. Beast.
crazy about ghost kitchens, but now I'm an expert.
Well, here's the thing about that 71% of people don't know what a ghost kitchen is. And actually, I really think that that makes sense because a restaurant brand like Mr. Beast or like any of the other restaurant brands doesn't want you to see the man behind the curtain. They want you to think that there's a Chez Panisse around the corner from you because you can get it on DoorDash, or Uber Eats is going to deliver your favorite restaurant that's only downtown, and you happen to be out in the burbs and it's going to be hot and fresh and ready. They don't want you to know that. They want you to be in a mystery, and they want you to think that it actually came from the real place and not some sketchy food truck in a Boost Mobile parking lot, you know?
Yes, that is part of the charm. And I suppose even if you were a consumer and you found that out, you would just kind of be able to separate that and compartmentalize in your head, because ultimately you want a good meal. And if it's associated with a brand that you trust and it delivers, then you should be happy. My favorite saying is, don't open up your McDonald's cheeseburger. You got it. It was cheap. It was good. Don't see what's inside that thing because you won't like it anymore. So just don't ask.
Yeah, just don't ask. But you know, when you were talking about it being a great experience from a brand you trust, it really made me think of something that is not very popular with brands, and that is private labeling. Ghost kitchens are in essence a restaurant that is creating private label food, and you're getting it from some little old lady that was who was cooking my Mr. Beast burger. It wasn't, you know, goofy 20-something dudes slinging around burgers. It was actually a you know, tiny little lady in a food truck making our burgers. So I think a lot of consumers are very okay with the idea of private label food in the grocery store, and now we're seeing private label food coming from a ghost kitchen. But the concept of it has such wide-ranging possibilities for, especially for food service, because food service is really in a challenging time right now. If you are a huge operator with 2,000 locations across the country and you've got nobody in those locations right now, you've got real estate that's not being used. You've got facilities, you've got forks, knives, and spoons, and soda fountains, and all of this stuff that you own, all of these assets that you own that are not getting used. And a ghost kitchen takes all of that overhead away, and allows you to expand your brand and to reach millions and millions of consumers with a very low cost of entry. So newer players who embrace this concept are able to get a Mr. Beast restaurant at 600 locations across the country when it only started 5 months ago. So fascinating possibilities for the industry, but also really challenging for established players.
Right, but established players can start to rely on the virtual brand, which is a new concept for established restaurants, basically, to have a delivery only component or concept that is separate from the in-restaurant experience. And that, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. It's an interesting idea, and it gives it it gives some cultural currency to people, and with people being less excited about going to restaurants, it's a way to kind of have that in your home.
Although right now, I think we're at a really exciting time, especially today with the news that dropped today, where the CDC is saying people who have been vaccinated can go indoors without masks on. I think that's going to open up a valve of people who have been holding back on food service and dining out and groups and gatherings. And you know, what was a third of adults have been vaccinated already. I really feel like we're bracing for a very busy summer. So we're balancing this of the reopening of a lot of restaurants, a lot of demand for restaurants, but also we're also seeing a ton of capital investments going into these ghost kitchen concepts or satellite kitchens or whatever you want to call them. We see news releases every other day of tens of millions of dollars going into these concepts to expand them. So exciting times, a lot of really cool news, and it kind of goes along with a story that I reported on this week as well about the top retail store openings in the US are mostly Dollar Generals. You know, a couple thousand Dollar Generals a year are opening. They have 17,000 locations. But also on that list was Dollar Tree, Five Below, discounters, deep discounters, and Aldi, another deep discounter. What these formats have in common with this rapid expansion of ghost kitchen is very small reliance on real estate. And Aldi can go in just about anywhere. They can build new or they can adapt to a strip mall location. Same goes for Dollar General. Dollar General's only building 8 to 10,000 square feet if they're building new. And they have very low overhead. And so it's not really surprising that those are the top ones to grow in this economy, at least.
Yeah, it's funny to see both these low overhead investments start to take off in food service and retail. Basically, it's the smaller chains fighting back against the system a little bit that punished you for having a lot of fixed costs, and with government shutdowns and illnesses affecting your employees, you had trouble getting enough revenue to justify all those fixed costs and remain profitable. And these are ways to do that. The question will be, you know, if these will work. I mean, especially in the restaurant industry, we talked about using a brand and delivering. A lot of these companies are not going to deliver. And that was your experience too with Mr. Beast. Is it was an underwhelming experience. They've got to be able to do it well to succeed in the market. Just because they're trying it doesn't mean it's going to work.
Right.
Whereas Aldi has proven that their system absolutely works. I mean, I've become a huge Aldi fan. I mean, not for everything, but for a lot of things.
Yeah, Aldi, there's one, actually, my friend Heather, she lives in Georgetown, Texas, and she took a picture the other night that I was hoping was going to be horizontal, but it was actually vertical, of the Aldi in Georgetown getting ready to open. And for me, that's exciting because that's only 20 minutes away rather than 45 minutes away in Pflugerville. So I can get over there and actually stock up at Aldi instead of having to go all the way to Harker Heights or Temple. I just really, really wish, back in the day, remember when we talked about Kohl's and Aldi, I was really hoping that when they chopped off part of that Kohl's here in Leander, that they were going to put Aldi, but instead they put a Planet Fitness. And I'm sure that they were not happy about that.
No, they're not. But, yeah, you got to be careful about the whole stocking up at Aldi concept.
Yeah.
They've been known to violate the cold chain, which means when you get your Aldi produce, you got to eat it pretty fast.
Yeah, that is not
Costco, where you're walking into a beautiful freezer that's bigger than your house.
Yeah, I don't really have to worry about the strawberries at Costco as much as you do at Aldi when they're out on a dry table for who knows how long, because I'm pretty sure they don't put them back in the fridge at the end of the day. But
they probably sell them all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of high retail sales, we got the latest report, the monthly report that Anna Marie from 210 Analytics produces for the Produce Marketing Association. And we are still on track with double-digit growth over 2009, even though we saw a dip.
2019.
2019. Wow.
We were way younger in 2009.
I know. My hair was a lot less gray.
A beard that was not gray.
But we're seeing numbers that are continuing to trend double digits over 2019. Although there was a dip in vegetables over 2020, fruit actually was very strong for retail sales in April of 2021. over the 2020 numbers, which is surprising to see already. But if we remember back in the early days of pandemic stock-ups, fruit was actually suffering due to low impulse sales, people buzzing through stores as quickly as possible and maybe not spending time looking at fruit displays. A couple of really fascinating numbers that came out of that report I thought were, we're seeing inflation. And Anna Marie was even saying that the inflation is higher in produce than it has been in meat, and meat has had a lot of inflation over the last year.
Yeah, that was actually confirmed in the Consumer Price Index report that we had this week from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It had food up 3.3%, and fruit and vegetables were in that same one, but fresh fruit was up 6.2% year over year in April. So that is significant, and we're seeing that in multiple places now.
Yeah, we are seeing it in multiple places, although I will say that according to the IRI numbers, we're seeing heavy volumes in, compared to year over year. The 2021 volume versus 2019 was up 25.8%. So people are stocking back up in produce and shopping more in produce and less in frozen and canned, which is what we had seen, frozen and canned eating away at dollar share of fruits and vegetables. The other number that is just astounding, and it kind of ties the whole thing together, is floral. We had exceptional demand for floral, I mean, for Mother's Day flowers, that you did well, nice job. But the floral numbers during the pandemic, the very beginning of the pandemic, we saw just basement. People pulled out their floral because they thought no one wanted flowers. Just take a time to deal with flowers. We're just stocking up on food right now. But 2021 compared to 2019, 26% year increase of floral sales. That's crazy. I mean, it's 75% over 2020, but a lot of stores just completely wiped out floral along with deli and, you know, that kind of stuff. But to see that we're tracking that far ahead of our 2019 numbers just reinforces that people are really engaging with floral now. But it also is causing an even tighter situation when we talk about trucks. And that's because of something that you talked with C.H. Robinson about, is that most of the floral in the US comes into Florida, into Miami. And so these trucks in the Southeast in particular, high demand for refrigerated trucks, and it's not going away.
No, but Mother's Day is over, and we've already had the two biggest floral days of the year out of the way. And now it should get back to normal. I haven't seen any studies on the floral thing, but I suspect it's, you start dealing with a pandemic, and then you start to look for the little things in life that make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And fresh flowers. Like, hey, live in the now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been treating myself with floral for the last year, just because I can. I mean, I'm not going out to a restaurant, but I'm going to start going out a little more often, I'm sure. Start traveling a little bit more. All of that disposable income is going to get disposed in the ways that we're used to, instead of in little indulgences. So I assume we're going to see not maybe 26% year over year increases. I think May's numbers are going to be even higher because that's Mother's Day is in there. But going into June and July, we'll still see double digit, I'm sure, for floral. That's not going to go away.
Well, I hope it stays up, because we're happier when we have fresh flowers.
Yes, that's scientifically proven, that you are happier when you have fresh floral.
Fresh produce, for that matter.
Yeah, well, that too.
They just had studies that show that. That's true.
Yep. Well, we're going to end it on a happy note then. And that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up. And we haven't even said hi to Chewy yet. Chewy!